Chronic fatigue syndrome, also known as myalgic encephalomyelitis, CFS-ME, is one of the most understood health conditions of our time. On the surface, it looks like an illness of exhaustion, energy crashes, and strange neurological and bodily symptoms. Doctors describe it as a multi-system disorder because it can touch everything: sleep, digestion, focus, pain levels, immunity, balance, and more. And people often come away from medical appointments feeling dismissed, confused, or told they simply have fatigue. But anyone who has lived through it knows it is much, much more than that. So what really is CFS-ME? To answer that, we need to go deeper than the symptoms, deeper than go beyond the nervous system, and into the roots of how the mind and body work together. First, let's be clear and push away a common myth. People with CFS-ME are not broken. Their bodies are not failing randomly, nor are their symptoms all in their head. In fact, symptoms in CFS-ME are extremely real, often measurable through biomarkers, high heart rate, low blood pressure, elevated stress hormones, disrupted sleep cycles, immune irregularities, and even changes in brain scans. None of this is imagined. But what these findings don't explain is why the body is doing all this. Why does the nervous system stay on high alert? Why does the immune system seem caught between overdrive and collapse? And why does simple exertion trigger symptoms of malaise, dizziness or pain, often for days on end? The answer is not that the body is faulty, it's that the body is trying to protect. At the heart of CFS lies repression. This word can sound heavy, but it simply means emotions, experiences, and truths that were once too overwhelming or unsafe to feel were pushed down, hidden away, out of consciousness, out of awareness. And instead of being processed naturally in the body, as they should, they got locked into the nervous system and the body's tissues, fascia, cells, like frozen snapshots in time, all in the subconscious. In childhood or even in later life, many people with CFS learned to survive by keeping their real feelings under wraps. Anger might have felt too dangerous, grief too overwhelming and unbearable, fear too exposing. Instead, the personality that developed around coping, people-pleasing, performing, or just holding it all together. This false self, this one we had to become, what Jung calls the persona, became the outward face to the world. But inside, the rejected emotional truth never actually disappeared. The psyche has a law of return. What is repressed must eventually come back into consciousness. And if it cannot return as the original feeling, it will return as symptom. And the body becomes the messenger to deliver this message. Here is the key. CFS-ME. Our symptoms are not random. They're not random malfunctions. They are substitutes, therefore, for these unexpressed emotions. They are signals, alarms, ways the deeper self, this organizing force of nature that understands the entirety of us, our ultimate awareness, forces us back to what has been hidden so that we can now come back to balance. Symptoms are substitutes for emotions. Take post-exertional malaise, the hallmark of CFS-ME. On the surface, it looks like the nervous system cannot tolerate activity, but symbolically, it's the body saying, you cannot keep running, pushing, overriding yourself. You must stop, you must feel. Or consider brain fog and dizziness. These often appear when emotions beneath the surface are just too intense to be tolerated directly. The mind literally fogs over, clouds, so that the truth cannot break through too fast. It protects us. It also allows us to stop filling ourselves with more information, more data, so we can finally update the backlog, which is pressing into consciousness to bring us back to balance. Even the crushing fatigue has meaning. It's not laziness, it's not weakness. It's not our mitochondria that are malfunctioning. It's the body enforcing stillness, insisting that energy be withdrawn from outward striving and performance and redirected inwards towards what has been unfelt and unprocessed, so that we can finally be in the body and update and get well. Neuroscience helps us understand this. When emotions are repressed, the amygdala and other threat detection circuits stay on high alert. The body is caught in fight, flight or freeze, even without any present external danger. And over time, this dysregulates every system: hormones, immunity, sleep, digestion, circulation, you name it. The result is a bewildering range of symptoms seen in CFS-ME. Why? Because the emotions are the regulator of the nervous system. They are the thing that helps us maintain homeostasis. Without them, and we've been managing for very long without them, the tipping point has come. The energy is held in the nervous system, waiting for us to allow it to complete. The nervous system is not malfunctioning. It is overprotecting, guarding against, on one hand, the shadow which is coming into consciousness, and holding and waiting for the permission to just push it through, as it's doing now with symptoms. In Jung terms, the symptom is the shadow, speaking through the body. And in psychological terms, the symptom is the brain's way of keeping the repressed emotion locked down. So we've got the energy from the shadow pushing one way, and from the ego saying, oh my God, this is too dangerous. We put it in there for a reason, pushing the other. And it meets in this threshold of the body. Many people say with CFS-ME, yes, mind-body theories may explain some conditions, but my illness is different. Look, I have real test results, real abnormalities, real inflammation, and so on. They're right. CFS-ME produces genuine physical findings. Why? Because we have become dysregulated. Why? Because we have repressed our emotions and repressed survival responses, often for decades, in the nervous system, in the shadow. So the consequence is we are stuck in a situation waiting completion. And this has these effects. The deeper truth is that these physical changes are downstream effects of repression and nervous system dysregulation. And nervous system dysregulation itself is another symptom of repression. It is not the cause. And so many people have not understood this yet because they haven't understood it as a mind-body condition, and they act as if it's a brain-body condition. So I want to reassure you, if you've tried everything else, you're here, you've tried brain retraining, you've tried all of these things, working with the nervous system, don't worry. This is the answer, because it is a mind-body condition. And once we allow the mind that's been trying to speak through the body to be heard, the nervous system will re-regulate, the message will be read, and we will naturally no longer need the symptoms to speak for the mind. So the body isn't lying, but the symptom is not the root. I want to make this abundantly clear. The root is the frozen emotional charge, the truth, the instinct that has not yet been allowed to be expressed. Most people with CFS-ME have a certain personality structure. They are often conscientious, sensitive, perfectionistic, eager to please, and deeply caring. They learned that being good, responsible, or selfless kept them safe and connected to their caregivers. And what was left behind were their own forbidden emotions: anger, sadness, defiance, fear, creativity, desires, even joy. And of course, in this case, our vitality as collateral damage. And so the illness is not a punishment. It's the self's attempt to restore this balance. We've become very one-sided. We've had to cut off half of ourselves to survive. Often as a result of trauma, often as a result of poor attachment, not being seen, not being allowed to be ourselves and to naturally feel safe to be ourselves, to express as ourselves. Jung wrote that symptoms are the voice of the suffering soul. And it's so true. The body is not attacking itself. It's trying to bring back the forgotten parts of the psyche, held in the shadow, so wholeness can be restored. So how does healing begin? Well, if CFS and ME, like other mind-body conditions, is rooted in repression, then the pathway of recovery is not about fixing a broken body or managing a nervous system. It's about allowing what has been disallowed, allowing that energy that has been building up and up and up and up in the subconscious and the shadow and held in the nervous system to finally be allowed to move through. It's already there. It's at the threshold. It's your symptoms. It's the dysregulation, and it's waiting for us now to allow it to complete its cycle. And healing begins when we stop fighting the symptom and start listening to it. And by listening, I don't mean interpreting with our thinking mind what it's saying. I mean being with it in the body and allowing it to complete. Doesn't mean digging or forcing emotions out. It means creating space within the body through the practices of awareness in a framework of a routine schedule, rest, movement in nature, guided meditative exercises, and emotional processing, where just simply these things will naturally happen. We become the vessel that effectively just allows nature to move this through. And it's pretty chaotic, but nature knows what to do. You don't have to retrain your brain. Your brain, your operating system of consciousness, will naturally reorganize into coherence once we allow those exiled parts of us that have been pushed into the unconscious parts of the mind and the body to come back. Will naturally restore balance and, of course, wellness and vitality. And please look at the other videos talking about energy, because our job is simply to allow. As repressed emotions surface and are felt, the nervous system no longer needs to guard so tightly. Circuits reset, the energy returns, and symptoms no longer need to serve their protective purpose and begin to dissolve. And let us be clear, energy is energy in motion. It is our life force. To split it off and freeze it is to take out of commission our life force, our energy. We don't have less energy than we did. We have less available energy in consciousness because it was taken out as we repressed our emotions. And then on top of that, it was repressed with more energy that was used in service of that repression. So this is why over time, as the shadow builds, the need to divert resources from consciousness to repress the emotions has meant there's so little available energy left for us to use in the forward motion of living until we invite it back again. One of the most important tools is structure to let this process unfold. In the chaos of symptoms, a cast iron schedule gives the nervous system a signal of safety and predictability. Regular rest, regular movement, activity rest, doing, not doing, exposure integration is key. Regular engagement with life, slowly and steadily, as we retrain and update the nervous system and the ego, increase its capacity and slowly allow nature to move this energy through to completion. These routines teach the body and the amygdala and the ego that it is now safe to come out of hypervigilance and feel what's there. We don't have to force it. We don't have to biohack it. We simply allow ourselves to experience with neutrality what is presenting in the body, and nature will do the rest. This is a form of exposure, and it proves to the system that life can finally tolerate the feelings that once were overwhelming without collapsing or being annihilated. So this is not about pushing or overriding symptoms, never. It's about steady, compassionate allowing of what's there to be felt, which permits the nervous system to relearn its balance as it comes back into contact. Well, the emotions come back to regulate it and form part of the organism's operating system. And the energy comes back and restores vitality. The symptom is not the enemy, and this is the great paradox. CFS ME is this. Healing comes not from resisting symptoms or trying to fix them, like with any mind-body condition, but from allowing them to do their thing. The symptom actually is the cure, the solution to a much bigger problem of effectively denying ourselves, living so one-sidedly, so repressed, that this had to force us now to try and correct the system. It's a natural balancing of nature. And we need this is a very volatile process of energy coming back, and there's plenty of videos on this here, and being integrated, of being updated, of being allowed, because we are effectively reintroducing something that will seem quite foreign into consciousness, our emotional truth, our instincts, who we really are. And every crash, every flare or fatigue wave is an invitation to feel what was once unfelt. And we don't actually want you to crash. Flares are essential because this is, as you'll understand, part of the process. They're not dangerous. They're part of the update program, but crashes we don't need. Each symptom is showing us a part of ourselves we forgot coming back online, and reflects the emotional truth that has been seeking expression desperately, sometimes for years, but now through symptoms, and it's forced us to stop. So when we stop treating the symptom as an enemy and begin to see it as a messenger of ourselves coming back, the message of our emotional truth, everything changes. The fear cycles loosen, the body feels heard. In the language it speaks, which are sensations and emotions, the nervous system empties, it doesn't have to hold the energy so much, it changes, capacity is increased, it re-regulates, the amygdala updates, the ego and the whole default mode network reform around this truth, and we start to become more ourselves. We put down the false self, we come back online, we start to identify and stop feeding these programs of survival. Becoming this person we had to become to survive, so we're now coming back to ourselves, and slowly the life energy returns. So seen through this lens, CFS-ME is not just an illness to be cured, it is an initiation back to balance and wholeness. It's actually a cure, although it's just like so many things that we don't understand, like the snotty nose and the fever is the solution to an infection. So too, these mind-body conditions, these presentations are actually drawing us back into the body to now feel what has been forgotten so we can come back to balance. It's the body psyche demanding that we no longer live the divided, split off part between the pleasing persona, this false version of ourselves, and the buried shadow. And it calls us back to our authenticity, our coherence, back into alignment. We've strayed too far from ourselves, to the original self that includes all our feelings, our authentic needs, our ability to say no, our ability not to have to be perfect, to people please, to do what we want, to not have to manage, and to feel safe, to speak our mind and to live authentically, and to accept back all the feelings, even the ones we believed were unacceptable. And this is why recovery is entirely possible. Not because we fight the illness, but by aligning with it, the deeper intelligence beneath it will just naturally do it for us. It takes time, it takes commitment, we go slower to get there faster, and it's absolutely 100% doable if you commit to it. It's not complicated, but it is incredibly hard because we have to learn to allow to be with what was once very difficult, buried emotions, the feelings of anxiety, the sensations in the body, and within a very strict structure, all of which in subsequent videos will be explained why they help support this unfolding process. CFS-ME is real, its symptoms are real, its suffering is real, but it is not random, it is not meaningless, it is not proof of a broken body. You only have to look at the kind of people who develop it. There is a root similarity. These are people who have been traumatized, big T, small t trauma, people who've not had to be themselves, who've had to adapt and rotate around other people's needs, who've had to perform and do and achieve to survive this far. And now the body says no. It's the body's way of speaking the unspoken, of bringing repressed emotions back into the light because the mind has buried them. So, to be clear, at its root, as with all illness, CFS-ME is repression. The solution is not to endlessly manage or suppress the symptoms, but is to allow the expression of the repressed material to now discharge through the body, where it's presenting as symptoms, which are the ambassadors for these split off emotional truths, to completion, and to just simply support this natural process, to allow what was once disallowed, to let the body complete its old cycles of emotions, its old mechanisms of defense or fleeing from danger. It's natural, it's normal, and if we give it the chance and we get out of the way, we just let it happen. We don't have to make it happen. We need to start feeling, to rest, to integrate, and let the self return. So the message of the illness is abundantly clear. The body is not the enemy. The symptom is the seeker, and recovery begins and continues and concludes when we allow nature to guide us. In the support, what we can offer is the support of a schedule and the other pillars we talk about here, but ultimately it wants to do it on itself. It's only our interrupting that has caused the problem.